Hello and welcome to Crystal Cast, our immigration podcast. My name is Ross and I'm an immigration lawyer.
My name is Juan and I'm a registered immigration agent. Alright. Hello, welcome to another episode of Crystal Cast. My name is Juan, I'm a registered immigration agent.
And my name is Ross and I'm an immigration lawyer. And now we'd like to thank our sponsors for allowing us to bring these episodes on a weekly basis. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do it.
Yes, and they are 123 Accounting. They are migration insurance brokers.
And we've got Oasis Keen, and then we also got Strategic Brokers. So thank you to those individuals. Well, Juan, I'm really excited to speak with you this week. This week we've got a bit of a episode to talk about the feel-good cases. I know that we've got quite a few that have come through this week, and you've got an example, I've got one too, and I do want to spend time talking about the future of regional migration. We've got skills and demand visa coming in, so we'll talk about how that's going to impact 494s and 491 visas. So this week we're going to be talking about regional migration, Juan, and what I really want to discuss is Well, there's a couple of things. We've got skills and demand visa coming up shortly. The date is yet to be announced, but I suppose where I wanted to take this discussion to is the current regional visas. So we've got the 494 visa and we've got the 491 visa. Let's maybe talk a little bit about those. When do people use 494 visas?
Yeah, Ross, just in those instances, going regional, having to have that skill assessment, it's a visa that is very specific to that, and I'm just wondering how the skilling and visa are going to impact these.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, the benefits of the 494 visa is that you've got more occupations, but as you've mentioned, you've got the skills assessment, you've got the age cutoff as well, 45. So it's not for everyone, and there are drawbacks in relation to that. One of the benefits is that there's no employer sponsorship for the permanent provisions, but otherwise it is fairly stringent. So it just got me thinking that what would be the future of the 494 visa? You've got skills and demand visa, it covers all the occupations. What would happen to the 494 visa?
Right. And is it in your opinion, Ross, the skill and demand visas, even though we still need to know more details, do you think it's gonna sort of wipe out the regional options we have at the moment?
Well, I think that it may, because, and there's a couple of reasons why I think that. So the first one is, a couple of years ago I went to this information session where there was a discussion with stakeholders in the Department of Home Affairs, and one of the things that they've talked about is making less visa subclasses, because we've got too many. So have a streamlined employer visa, streamlined family visa, streamlined refugee visa, and so forth. So maybe have about 10 as opposed to 90. So to wipe out regional visas would go in line with that particular strategy. And the other thing is the the skills and demand visa, it covers all of the occupations.
Yeah.
So you've got your lower skilled occupations, you've got your standard occupation list, and you've got your specialist occupations. So I'm just sort of thinking, how would the 494 visa serve its purpose? If you're an employer, for example, and you had two options. Option one, do the skills assessment, make sure your employee is under 45, and then you've got option two, which doesn't carry these requirements. Of course, you go with option number two.
Yeah, and also, Ross, I just think, because I know that the government has been trying to lure people to regional areas to populate those areas. So I wonder what the strategy is going to be.
That's a really good question, and there's a couple of ways to answer that. So when you look at Direction 100, which talks about the processing of the visa applications, regional visas have now been placed first again. So I suppose the way that it would work is that if the position's in a regional area, these visas would be processed faster. So that could be a little bit of an incentive. But I think and this is one of the things that I talk about in migration strategy, the government would need to come up with a plan in terms of how to get people to go to regional
100%.
areas.
Yeah, because that's one of the incentives right now. Like people can get permanent residency through the, for example, 494.
Without employer support
Exactly.
through the 191 visa.
And despite the fact of having to have a skill assessment, but you have that massive intensive of PR. And I consider that it is important that we populate these areas as well. So I'm really curious to see what's going to happen and how the government's going to implement incentives.
Yeah, definitely. And just on the back of that, I think it's really important to keep in mind that when you look at the migration strategy, the government did say that before implementation of all these stages, there will be consultations as well with stakeholders, with migration agents, lawyers, and this is where you can have your say. I always say that if there's something that bothers you, if something bothers your clients, definitely participate in stakeholder consultation. So there is a massive push for regional migration, but I do think we'll see cessation of a couple of other visas as well. And same goes for the 491 visa as well. The numbers are quite low for this particular visa.
Very low.
Yeah. I don't think we've had sort of much of an interest this year in 491 visas.
No.
And if you look at the allocations across different states, there's just not that much incentive for individuals to apply.
That's right.
So I suppose we'll wait and watch this area, but for those who are thinking about applying for regional migration, exclude Sydney, Melbourne or Brisbane, and the whole of Australia is regional.
Yeah, that's right.
Have you travelled much to areas outside of Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane?
Ross, I put me on the spot. I have just done the east of Australia.
Yeah.
From Cairns all the way down to the Great Ocean Road.
Yep.
Past Melbourne. But no, I haven't been to the rest of regional Australia. I have to, I really want to.
Yeah, it's actually, look, obviously, you can't compare Adelaide and Sydney, and I'm not saying one's better than the other, but there's, that little bit of charm when you go to these cities. And when you think about other cities like Perth, for example, over 1 million people, and that's considered to be a regional area. Go up north where Kansas, beautiful weather, and so there's a lot of opportunities there.
Yeah.
But I do think we need to maybe make it a little bit more attractive for employers and also employees to be able to be incentivized and sponsor individuals.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so we'll wait and see what happens here. So Juan, this week we had quite a few feel-good stories, and I wanted to share this with our listeners. Specifically, we had a couple of AET cases that have been going on for quite some time, and we received positive decisions on those. If you wanted to share yours.
Yeah, Ross, absolutely. And it is a good feeling, I want to say, like, because you started saying that they've been going for quite a long time. It's a great feeling when finally you have the hearing and you have a positive outcome.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think getting a hearing is good. I feel like everything's slowed down a little bit, but then getting a very speedy positive outcome, that's even better.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to speak about this couple, this client that they had a bit of an issue when they were traveling overseas and they were detained by border force officers. They were questioned about the relationship, and in this instance our client in specific got really nervous in that interview because they felt it was a little bit intrusive, the questions they were getting. They didn't believe they were in a relationship anymore.
Yeah.
And they got their visa cancelled, which was a very massive deal. So basically one of the partners made it into Australia, the other partner didn't make it into Australia because the visa was cancelled before. So imagine.
It's terrible. Yeah.
And the stress they were on, like separated, not being able to come to Australia. Basically they asked the Department of Home Affairs to revoke the cancellation of the visa unsuccessfully, and that's when we needed to go to the AET.
Yes.
To seek the revocation of this visa cancellation. And yeah, it took like about a year and a half for this hearing to be
It
allocated.
took a year and a half to get there.
Yes.
But I felt that the member was quite reasonable in his questions. We had an interpreter as well. And, you know, I suppose just also maybe relating it back to everyday experience. I don't know why I always get nervous when I go through airport. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I do feel that it is very intrusive. You know, you have to put your bags through a conveyor belt. I always get put on those X-ray machines as well.
That happens to me.
So for me, I don't know. I do feel quite nervous and quite anxious when I go through airport, and then once I go through security, I just sort of say to them with, oh, now I can relax. So I think, you know, if you're also taken into another room and you're being interrogated, especially in a different language that you may not be familiar with, I can see how the nerves will get even, you know, the better of you.
100%. And that was the case of a client. They felt like they didn't prepare for an answer.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't have to be prepared, like when you get questions about your life, but at the same time, why are you being detained?
Yeah.
And there were questions about drugs and things like that there were stresses in the whole questioning process.
Yeah.
And that's what put our client into this unexpected situation.
Yeah.
Resulted in a visa cancel, resulted in going to the AAT, you know, like, but at the end of the story is quite happy. So in the sense that we got the visa, the revocation of
Under Section 109, yeah, it was a very good outcome, and very quick. So the hearing happened, and then 2 business days later, we got the decision, which was just excellent.
Yeah.
And yes, the client's very happy. I wanted to share with you another case that I've had this week, Juan. So this case involved a partner visa where there was a regulation 1.20J issue, so multiple sponsorships. Now, this particular individual had, well, this would have been their 5th sponsorship.
Their fifth sponsorship. Wow.
Yes. And you know, when the hearing started, even the members said, I can understand, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with the decision, but I can understand why such a case would be refused. Because, well, if the limit of sponsorship is 2, and you've now gone over the limit by double, and you're asking us to approve another one, right, you can kind of see the predicament. Well, the interesting thing is when you go to the AAT can actually approve the sponsorship. It doesn't need to be remitted back to the Department of Home Affairs. So you can actually get the decision on the sponsorship on the day. So that's really interesting. And that also meant that the 820 visa could be remitted back to the Department of Home Affairs. So you don't need to have 2 separate hearings. So it was sort of like a combined hearing. We dealt both with the sponsorship refusal and also the visa application refusal. And the member was, again, really nice and understanding. There's a lot of compelling, compassionate reasons, which I won't go into just to ensure that we maintain confidentiality, but there were issues in relation to health, both physical and mental, and there were other sort of factors and stresses. And this case did take 4 years to get to the AAT.
4 years.
4 years. And in fact, the visa application was refused 4 years to the day.
Wow.
And
the fact that the couple still together.
Yes.
They went through all of these
the
4 years later.
COVID-19, yes.
AAT refusals. Oh my god! Like I guess to the member, this would be proof as well that they're a genuine couple.
Yeah.
Right.
And the member said that too.
Yeah.
You know, the member actually apologized and said,
wow.
You know, we're sorry that it's taken this long to get to the hearing. And you know, as a couple, I spoke with them prior. We had coffee, and they said we'll put our whole life on hold. We can't really plan to buy a car because we don't know what's going to happen. Can't really buy a house. In terms of work, there's limitations as well.
Yes, and I guess that's one of the main things to consider. Like people pull their lives on hold because they don't know what's gonna happen. Literally waiting all this time.
Yeah.
to finally know what's gonna happen with your visa situation, with your immigration status.
Yeah.
Are you gonna stay? Are you gonna leave? Are you gonna go to the FCC? So it is good when we have good stories. Good outcomes.
It was fantastic, yeah. So it went for 2.5 hours, which is fairly reasonable when you hear 2 applications. And then the member said, I approved the sponsorship and I remit the partner visa back to the department. So they gave an oral decision, which is really good. That's also quite rare as well because
What was your experience in that regard, Ross? Because I know you've been many times in the AAT. Like, is it usually that they give like all decisions on the spot? Is it something that...
Well, look, it really depends. If it's a fairly technical issue where there's sort of a black and white answer. So, for example, let's say that the nomination was refused, a 482 nomination was refused based on genuine need of the role. So if you can demonstrate all of that, provide finances on the day, then the AT can give an oral decision. With partner visas, because there's so many discretionary factors and there's so much information that needs to be collated, generally the member would need to go away and think about it. So for me, it is rare to get an oral decision on a partner visa on the day. But the member could see how distressed the couple was, and I think the fact that it has taken 4 years, they didn't want to prolong it any longer.
100%.
Yeah, even if it is a couple of days, at the end of the day, they even said we've been waiting for this day for 4 years, and the member said, well, let's not sort of prolong it any longer than we should.
That's a very compelling moment and factor to take into account. It's been 4 years.
Yeah.
Let's
just finalise it. Let's not drag it on. So I think we had a very good week in terms of decisions, and we congratulate our clients.
Congratulations.
Now that's all that we have time for this week, Juan. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Ross. And I'm ready for the next one.
Episode 5, here we come.